Somebody said, can porn ever be ethical? And I said, it depends on the director.
Hello, welcome in my room.
With a few of my more recent projects, I think it started with the Psychopath Test. I turned the focus onto us, onto our hypocrisies, our biases.
2 different pornography projects. Tell me why and how, and is this something that had been on your mind for a long time?
I think there was an origin moment, and it was when I was writing So You've Been Publicly Shamed. I met my first ever porn star called Princess Donna, and I walked towards her. I happened to glance over at the receptionist, and the receptionist was looking at her, and the look on his face was one of total contempt. Dirtbag, sex worker, doing in our pristine lobby. I bet you'd be okay with Princess Donna if she's on the safety of your laptop, but you're disgusted by her being in your vicinity. So the days of me doing things like The Men Who Stare at Goats, like finding people doing eccentric things over there and then me gently, making fun of them, is long gone.
Why is that? Because you want a bigger message? You want people to kind of wake up and think about their own behavior a bit more than just marvel at a peculiarity?
Yeah, absolutely. It's hypocritical, because if you're saying, look at those crazy people over there, then you don't have to confront your own biases and your own capacity to do harm in the world.
Enough is enough!
Jon, for any writer that's watching us, what advice would you give them?
Always do a story that you're passionate about. Be a hustler, generate your own work. Don't wait for people to give you permission. Yeah.
New York City is a great city. Every block, every neighborhood is different. Such a powerful environment.
It's a town, I think, where there's so much opportunity. There's also a lot of pressure. It says you either make it or we're gonna go on to the next person.
New York has a mystique that tends to draw the most talented people in the United States and indeed the world to it.
I am back from New York City. It was crazy, it was noisy, and it was full of incredible guests, and one of them is Jon Ronson. I love Jon because he is this wild, quirky, gonzo journalist, filmmaker, screenwriter who's brought us incredible work like The Men Who Stare at Goats, The Psychopath Test, and So You've Been Publicly Shamed. His movies have featured stars like Michael Fassbender, George Clooney, and Ewan McGregor, and he's just a quirky, weird dude that's so honest and so real. He's been living in New York City now for, I think, 6 or 7 years. He's still an introvert, and it was great getting inside his mind and his last 2 projects, which were podcasts about the porn industry. One of them about how free porn changed everything, changed the actors, their livelihood, and the kind of porn they created. And one of them was about the suicide of a porn star that had a lot of implications about the industry and what happened. He's always exploring new mediums, and he's on to now write more screenplays. And it was great just to hear from him about the world at large, society, social media outrage, Alex Jones. We went deep on everything. Jon didn't pull any punches, and I know you're going to enjoy this incredible episode with the one and only Jon Ronson. This is London Real. I am Brian Rose. My guest today is Jon Ronson, the award-winning author, screenwriter, and documentary filmmaker. Your work includes The Men Who Stare at Goats, The Psychopath Test, and So You've Been Publicly Shamed, with several of these books becoming major Hollywood movies that featured actors like Ewan McGregor, George Clooney, and Michael Fassbender. As a gonzo journalist, you explore unique personalities and unusual situations. Most recently, you produced 2 podcasts, The Butterfly Effect and The Last Days of August, both focusing on the world of pornography. Jon, welcome to London Real in New York City.
Nice to be back, but it's my second, you may not remember, but I did this show once before.
I remember. We were lower tech at the time. I was dressed differently at the time.
It was in Shoreditch. I remember there was a boxer, tattooed boxer in the room.
Yeah, mixed martial artist, Pete Irving. He was a big fan of yours.
Is he still working with you?
Yeah, no, he was one of my martial arts trainers. And we still trained together, but he did a co-host a few times.
Right.
So.
Yeah, he was a good guy.
Yeah.
I liked him.
That was old school. We had the webcams, and I was wearing skateboard gear, and you were thinking about you were talking about moving to New York.
Oh, and here I am.
And here you are.
Yeah, and I've been in New York 8 years, so it was probably around 8 years ago.
Right
did
around
it.
that. Yeah. So good to see you.
Yes, nice to be back.
How has that transition been to this crazy ass city? Because I lived here in the 90s, and when I come back, when I come back, I'd get triggered. You know, I'd be like, oh my gosh. But, you know, this city it's very different than London. And, you know, it's a hard city in some ways.
Yeah. Well, I love it. The first year I hated it because, you know, I felt homesick and I found myself isolating, like not going to parties, you know, just sort of falling apart a bit. And now I love it. So I'm glad we didn't. I remember at one point in the first year saying to my wife, you know, let's move back to London. And she was like, okay. And I'm so glad that we didn't because I love it now.
And how did you grow to love it? And what do you love about it?
Well, it's kind of boring in a way. I mean, I started doing a comedy show with my friend Maeve Higgins. We started curating a comedy show. And that was the kind of thing I used to do back in London a bit. And it just it just felt like, okay, I'm doing, you know, it's familiar.
Right, you got into the community and...
Yeah, I made friends. It was doing this show with Maeve that sort of made me love it.
Were you in the show? Or?
Yeah,
okay.
I would, you know, me and her would like co-present.
Like a stage show?
Yeah, but she's such a fucking purist. Like if I ever did the same joke twice, she would shame me on stage. And so she would make me like write new material like every month for the show. And after a while I was like, this isn't fun. No, this is not work. So I quit the show. And she now does a brilliant show with Aparna Nancherla and Joe Firestone, like two brilliant comedians. So the three of them do a show together now.
Okay. And you moved on to other projects?
Yeah, you know, writing. And being miserable in New York, the one really good thing in retrospect about feeling like adrift in New York and unmoored was that's what gave me the idea to write So You've Been Publicly Shamed. Because when I'd go on social media and see people being kind of destroyed, and this was in the very early days when basically everybody was into doing the destroying, like it was new and exciting for everyone to like ruin people. I empathized more with the people being destroyed, like other people failing in New York. I remember the AIDS tweet woman, Justine Sacco, who also lives around here. She lives like a block away from here.
Really?
Yeah.
Were they too harsh on her?
Oh, of course, yeah. She I don't think she did anything wrong at all.
She did the tweet like, I'm going to Africa, hope I don't get AIDS.
Going to Africa, hope I don't get AIDS. Just kidding, I'm white. Now, of course, you know, when that happened, and then she got on a plane and fell asleep, and while she was asleep, you know...
So 12 hours she couldn't delete it or respond.
Yeah, and didn't realise that Twitter had just taken control of her life and just torn it to shreds. But, you know, when it first happened, I you know, thought what everybody else thought, which was, you know, oh, great, somebody's fucked. And I sort of like... But then after
Let's watch the show?
Yes, watch the show, yeah. And then after about like 5 seconds, I thought, hang on a minute, like I'm a fan of Randy Newman and South Park. Like, I'm a fan of the kind of comedy where people make fun of their own privilege. You know, that's what Randy Newman's done for years in songs like My Life is Good. So it didn't take me very long to figure out that Justine Sacco was trying to make a sort of self-reflexive liberal joke about her own privilege. But she never got the chance to explain that to anyone because by the time the plane landed, you know, her life was over.
Is that definitely what she was doing?
Oh, yeah.
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 And has it gotten worse since then? Or just is it different now?
Well, it mutates like a jellyfish.
Yeah.
That's what I was doing.
So someone wouldn't make that same mistake these days because they're
they wouldn't.
aware.
Yeah, but, you know, it's a slippery thing, transgressions. You know, you can a lot of people transgress without realising that they're doing something bad until it's pointed out to them.
Especially after a glass of wine and an Ambien.
Yeah, exactly. Drunk tweeting. That's what I'm pretty sure did for Danny Baker a few months ago.
What happened to Danny Baker?
I can't remember what he tweeted now, but it was clearly, you know, he'd had a drink.
Is your book, the Publicly Shamed book, does it need a revision or?
Well, I mean, I'm not going to revise it because I was actually thinking about this as I was coming up here, because you have people like Jordan Peterson on your show and stuff, and sort of intellectual dark web type people. And after that book came out, I could have, if I'd wanted to, have like joined the intellectual dark web. You know, Barry Weiss could have been writing articles about me. You know, they were welcoming me with open arms because of that book. But I really didn't want to. And I think I didn't want to for like a couple of reasons. First, they're partisan and tribal. And the whole point about my book is that it's non-partisan and it's non-tribal. And I find that, you know, people on the right, for instance, who say they're anti-shaming, they suddenly stop being anti-shaming if they can destroy someone on the left. You know, so that was one reason. Mm-hmm. And the other reason was, as a journalist, I think it's really bad. It's really corrosive to find your area and stay in it. You know, you become like a cliche, you become like a meme, and you lose your curiosity. And for me, you know, curiosity, trying to explore worlds I don't know, are more you know, interesting to me than sticking in worlds that I do know.
Okay. So
it was for those two reasons I turned down the invitation.
But they offered you a spot.
Yeah,
they
said.
Or did the New York Times offer to interview you in that article, or did you actually get like a call to be on the team?
No, but I mean, I know Barry Weiss a little. Okay. But when I read that article, I did think, I'm so pleased that like I didn't make career mistakes.
You would have lost all your cred, John.
Yeah, I'm so pleased that I'm not in that. Like, you know, because it's, you know, it's a bit like there was that guy. Did you ever see a documentary called Mr. Death?
No.
Oh, so interesting. It's about this guy. He worked on, his father, I think, invented execution devices. And so he took over the execution business and, you know, invented like a new type of electric chair and a new type of, you know, what do they call it? Lethal injection.
Okay, all right.
So he's kind of riding high. And then he gets involved with Nazis who want him to help them prove that there was no Zyklon B at Auschwitz. And he was like, okay. So he kind of joins the Nazis, and then, you know, for the rest of his career, all he can do is like go to Nazi conferences and, you know, where he gets standing ovations. So he's happy because he's getting standing ovations. But, you know, it's like, what a terrible, you know, series of poor life choices that you made. You were doing so well with your electric chairs, and now, anyway, on a lesser scale, that could have been me with the intellectual dark web.
Has your taste in the weird changed over the years, John? Because like I can see you, you can see your brain clicking when you kind of entertain all of these various degrees of absurdity. Has that changed in the last 8 years?
Yeah.
Do you need a little more to get you hooked?
Oh, yeah. You know, with a few of my more recent projects, I think it started with the Psychopath Test, and then it carried on with So You've Been Publicly Shamed, and also with the Butterfly Effect and the Last Days of August. I think what all of those things have in common really is that I turn the focus onto us, onto like our hypocrisies, our biases. You know, that's really what So You've Been Publicly Shamed and The Last Days of August in particular are about. The Butterfly Effect as well. They're about our hypocrisies. So the days of me doing things like The Men Who Stare at Goats, like finding people doing eccentric things over there and then me gently, you know, making fun of them, is long gone. I mean, that was like nearly 20 years ago.
Why is that? Because you want a bigger message? You want people to kind of wake up and think about their own behavior a bit more than just marvel at a peculiarity? Yeah,
absolutely. It's and it's hypocritical. I mean, for so many reasons. It's hypocritical because if you're saying, look at those crazy people over there, then you don't have to confront your own biases and your own capacity to do harm in the world. So that's a main reason for it. It's more grown up, I'd say, as a writer. Yeah. I mean, those are I suppose the two main reasons. It's more kind of, it's more important.
When people read like Publicly Shamed and then you meet them somewhere at a party, do they get that you're making a commentary about all of us? And do they accept responsibility, or are they kind of, oh, those people are bad?
I think the book's been misused by lots of people. I think it's been misused by the sort of hard identity politics left to say that it's like a attack on social justice, which of course it's not. And I think and sometimes, people do that kind of willfully, knowing that they're not telling the truth, right. Just for their own performative reasons. It's also misused. I've had people who've, sexually harassed people who've then, contacted me and said, your book helped me. And I'm like, go fuck yourself. My book isn't about people who sexually harass people. My book's about people who tell liberal, tell jokes that go slightly wrong and then get disproportionately punished. My book's not about serious offences. So I think it's been misused by like a swath of people from across the spectrum. But by and large, most people who read the book get it and appreciate it. And most people who read the book, when I say grumpily, oh, this fucker, just tweeted that my book is like, an attack on the left, they sort of roll their eyes and say, they know that it's not.
Right.
Yeah.
And we're here in New York to promote our film on
ayahuasca.
And my 3 ceremonies I had in Costa Rica about 1.5 years ago, and my subsequent roller coaster ride of integrating them back into the real world.
So you took ayahuasca 3 times?
3 ceremonies, yeah. Yeah, over the course of about 5 days.
Wow.
Yeah, with the second ceremony being the single most profound experience of my entire life.
Really?
It's a real mind blower.
Wow. I get edgy if I have like 3 cups of coffee. So 3 ayahuascas.
You can come with me next time, John.
Right.
And so, but you thought about doing an ayahuasca project in the past, right?
I was gonna do one with Robbie Williams. Robbie was gonna take ayahuasca.
Why did he want to take it?
Well, he was like in his sort of lost weekend. He'd just come off what I think was one of the biggest stadium tours of all time. Okay. And he was kind of exhausted and broken by this experience. I don't know what he's like with stadiums now, but at the time, he definitely found being on stage at a stadium was kind of triggering. Okay. So, and he had to do it like forever, like he was doing it for like a year. So he ended up sort of a bit of a kind of broken husk. Okay. And I got to know him around that time. And I'm smiling because I hope when John Lennon left Yoko and started dating someone else for a short period of time, what was her name? Do you remember?
I don't know. Did he?
Yeah, does anyone know?
I don't know.
Okay, well I suddenly hope that like I'm not her in Robbie's life, like the sort of slightly the embarrassing, shameful person and is sort of broken.
You guys did a whole project on aliens together.
Yeah, we went alien hunting.
Okay. How was that?
Great. I love the thing that makes me laugh. I've told the story before, so I apologise. But my favourite memory from that was that Rob had hired a private plane for the day, and so we all turned up, and the plane was going to take us into the desert in Nevada to meet alien abductees. And we turned up at the plane, and there was a woman standing there, and she said, "I'm Mr. Williams, Mr. Williams' friends. Welcome to your plane. This is your plane for the day." She said, "What I want to tell you is that Snoop Dogg uses this plane a lot. What I'm saying is you can do anything." And we all kind of, looked at each other. And finally, Rob's friend Brandon said, "Well, can we stand up as the plane lands?" that was all he could think of for like anything. So yeah, I loved it. I loved spending time with him. He was very sweet to the abductees. He said joining Take That at the age of 16 was a little bit like being abducted by aliens. So he was like empathizing with the abductees.
Were any of them credible to you, the abductees?
No, I don't think people are abducted by aliens.
Are there aliens?
Oh, I'm sure.
Okay.
But I don't think there's any credible evidence that, these stories about people. Well, I haven't done a huge amount of research, but the people that day, I wasn't sure. One of them was the mother. My other big memory of that day was the mother of this kid who'd been abducted by aliens. And she said, that her son had suffered like terrible bullying as a result of like being, you know, back at school as a result of being abducted by aliens. And Rob said, well, when did the bullying start? And she said, well, it's when I brought out my book about it called Raising an Interdimensional Star Child in an Evolving World. And that's when he started getting bullied by the other kids. So anyway, so I had a really good time with Rob looking for aliens, and I liked him very much. And we were going to do more. We were going to go ghost hunting. He wanted to spend a night in a haunted house. So I had this idea for a book, Robbie Williams and Jon Ronson, Journey to the Other Side, which I suppose would have ended up being a book about him, because you can't really be a book about ghosts or aliens, because we were unlikely to find any. So anyway, so he said, can we do a night in a haunted house? And I said, you know, sure. So I started phoning up all of these haunted manor houses, and emailing them and saying, you know, I hear that your house is haunted. I've been contacted by the pop star Robbie Williams, who would like to spend a night. And I thought, well, no one's going to get back to me. And 100% of the people I emailed back within minutes to say, you know, our house is absolutely haunted, and anytime Robbie wants to come. I was thinking like they're like throwing their ghosts at Robbie like their debutante daughters. Anyway, Robbie didn't want to do that. Changed his mind after I put all the work in. And I sort of grumpily thought, you know, no wonder Robbie Williams and ghosts get on so well. They both only manifest when it suits them. And then we were going to. I should say, you know, I'm making these sardonic jokes, but I love
Robbie.
Love him. Yeah, I loved spending time with him. He's a really kind, nice, lovely person. And then we talked about doing an ayahuasca thing, and he was going to like take ayahuasca, and I sourced a shaman for him.
In Peru. When
I say sourced a shaman, I think I went onto Google and Googled shaman, and found
the best way, John.
Yeah.
But it is a way.
Yeah. But then they said, like, the shaman said, is Robbie on any medication? And I was like, probably. And I said, well, look, if he's on any medication and he takes ayahuasca, he may never come back. So I phoned Rob and I said, look, I don't want to ruin the story, but it is possible that if you take ayahuasca, you might never come back. And anyway, the trip never happened.
So he didn't want to do it anyways.
I think he probably thought this was going a little bit. But you know, the other thing that happened around the time was he rejoined Take That. And I think he found himself at a path in the road. And one way lay me, haunted houses and ayahuasca. And the other way lay rejoining Take That. And he clearly made the right decision.
Did he?
Yeah, so our project, I mean, come on, of course. And
maybe that was an ego-destroying experience as well.
I got a bit of criticism at the time because the only thing that came out of that experience was our alien hunting trip. And a few people were like, one or two people, not many, were like, you know, Robbie Williams is clearly going through a rough patch. And here's Jon Ronson
taking advantage.
But I really felt and still feel that actually the opposite's true, that it was the stadium tour that, you know, put Robbie in a bad patch, and looking for aliens was curative for him.
Yeah.
So actually I was part of the cure and the stadium. And I really do believe that. I really believe that. And I think if you asked him, he'd say the same thing. So it was just a little, you know, way of him to not be Robbie Williams for a while, to do these fun adventures with me, and then to be Robbie Williams again.
You guys going to do something in the future?
I mean, probably not, but I'll tell you why. It's what I said before. If I was going to write a book about all of that stuff, it would inevitably have been a book about him, because...
And you're not a biographer.
Well, actually, a writer, Chris Heath, has written 2 brilliant books about Robbie, one called Feel, and then there was a sequel to it.
I read Feel. It was all about his touring days when he was trying to stay sober, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was good.
I thought it was wonderful, like a really sort of just a forensic look at somebody who's extremely famous, where even walking across a hotel lobby needs to be planned. And I thought it was like so good. So I thought, well, that book's been written. There may not be aliens or ayahuasca or ghost hunting, but a great book about Robbie Williams as a famous person has already been written. So, yeah.
No need to.
There's no need to.
So 2 questions for you. First of all, why porn? And second of all, why podcasting? Because your medium is traditionally in print. And though your stuff makes it into movies, you're not behind the camera. But podcasting is a fascinating medium to tell stories. And a lot of people are embracing it in different ways. And I'm curious, why?
Well, it's like the Wild West of narrative nonfiction. You can do anything. You can create your own rules. I really love that about it. I'm a fan. Right from the beginning of my career, when I was like writing for Time Out and The Guardian, when I was like 18, 19, I always had a rule for myself, which was I only ever want to work for people that I'm a fan of. So, my dream at the age of 18 was to have my own column in Time Out, because I was like, Hunter S. Thompson did it, and, P.G. O'Rourke did it. And now I'm a big podcast fan, and I really admire, the kind of adventurous spirit when it comes to, different ways of doing narrative. And then Audible came along and said I could do whatever I wanted. And they had good resources. And again, I'm a fan of Audible, I subscribe. Yeah. So...
And they're funding podcast projects, is what they're doing. So they write checks that you couldn't get from, obviously, iTunes or anything.
Yeah, I think the only people I can think of who would match Audible in terms of resources is probably This American Life. And my stuff is quite expensive because it's very... often I'll fly all the way to LA and end up with 4 minutes of usable material. Wow. So I need to work with, I don't do this kind of long form stuff, long form interview stuff. I really admire it, but I just don't think I'd be very good at it as an interview. I think I'm much better at sort of, weird, unfolding, twisty-turny narratives.
That's the way you write.
Yeah,
a
exactly.
long-form interview isn't great at crafting a complicated narrative or a nuanced narrative.
Yeah, and it's not cheap. So I had to work for somebody who could afford it, and really that's Audible and This American Life. If you're doing it in audio, if you're doing it in books, you're paying for the whole thing yourself, and you just hope you recoup in sales. But then again, if you're doing it in books, you're only paying for your own flight. You're not paying for a producer's flight.
Right.
So it does become a bit cheaper.
Were you ever worried, like, I can't pull this off?
Podcasting, no. It's no.
It's not podcasting, it's audio storytelling.
Oh, no, I'm very... I say this because I have very few skills, but editing audio definitely is one of them. Okay. Knowing the best moments. Also, I think I'm really good at the sound design, music, knowing how long the beat should be, like the breaths. I mean, I'm really intricate.
Did you do music in the past?
A little. I played in Frank Sidebottom's band, but I don't know if that strictly counts.
Which was the basis of Frank a little bit, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
I love sitting there thinking, when she pauses, should she pause for a second or should she pause for half a second? I spend so much time thinking about that stuff.
So do I. That's why my director always throws things at me.
Right.
We go down to the single frame when we're making our movies, and everything has to be perfect.
It's like music. It's like the rhythm of music.
Yeah. Although, in some ways, sound is strangely more creative than video. I don't know if you found that, but it's a fascinating medium because someone's visualizing everything and you're in between their ears and you're in their brain in a way that video doesn't do, even though it's got higher bandwidth. I don't know if you found that.
Yes, I'd love it. Well, for me, it's just less stressful I find video more stressful, partly
To create or to watch?
To create.
Okay.
Partly because I used to work with a really great cameraman, but he never took enough cutaways. And I remember when I was doing the documentary series to go alongside the Men Who Stare at Goats, it was nightmarish. I was like having sleepless nights because we didn't have enough cutaways. So I suppose, an answer to that would be to get more cutaways. But instead, I just decided not to do video anymore. Also, it's expensive, right? It's certainly more expensive.
Yeah.
I mean, how many people, there's 1, 2, how many people in this room? Like 3, 4 people?
5 cameras, yeah.
Right.
And lighting and all that stuff.
Yeah.
So you're enjoying the audio storytelling a lot.
A lot, yeah.
Is it the most creative medium out there, you think?
For me, it's that and books.
Okay.
Are by far my 2 favorite ways of telling stories.
And porn, 2 different pornography projects. Tell me why and how, and was this something that had been on your mind for a long time?
No, I think there was an origin moment, and it was when I was writing So You've Been Publicly Shamed. I met my first ever porn star, called Princess Donna. I met her at the Chateau Marmont. As you do. Yeah. I was on
name dropping on me, John.
No. This is about to become relevant.
Okay.
There's a gay porn star called Conor Habib, who, when he found out I was writing a book about shame, tweeted me to say, have I thought about doing anything about sex and shame or porn and shame? Because there's lots of people who will play out their most shameful erotic thoughts as a porn scene, thus reclaiming their, sort of de-shaming it by enacting it.
Okay. In their private life or on camera?
No, on camera.
Okay.
So I sort of thought, I suppose that's interesting. Like, I didn't think that was amazingly interesting, but I thought it was interesting enough to go down the road and see what I would find. So Connor put me in touch with Princess Donna, who does that. She did a lot of work for the studio called The Kink in San Francisco, which is all about, big scenes of S&M and that kind of thing.
It must be more detailed than that. Does it get really granular as like specific shame things?
Well, the shoot that she invited me to was called Public Disgrace. And it was a woman being dragged by Princess Donna into a bar. And then she'd have sex with somebody in the bar while all the people in the bar had to pretend it had come as a big surprise and would then have to look surprised, but then stand in a circle around them and shout out degrading things. What was really sweet was that nobody could think of it. They'd co-opted all of these sort of hipsters and sort of, to be the bar crowd. Right. And nobody could think of anything nobody wanted to shout anything too degrading because, it would make everyone feel uncomfortable. So my big memory was this kid in a beanie cap with a little beard, sort of hipster beard. And he was trying to shout out something, suitably degrading. And all he could think of was, put ice on her tooth. So that always made me laugh. But
and
anyway.
This was filmed for a piece of pornography.
Called Public Disgrace.
Okay, and that's a niche out there that people like.
Yeah, I'm afraid
they're reliving their own shames.
Yeah, and the actress Jodie Taylor, who was the one being pulled into the bar by Princess Donna, was enacting her own, thing.
Okay.
There's one Public Disgrace film out there, which is kind of spoiled by me getting too close into shot and writing things down in a notepad, which I think would probably ruin the erotic ambience for many people. The sort of presence of an owl-like journalist at an orgy.
They didn't publish it?
No, it's out there.
Oh, it's out there and you're in it?
Yeah, I'm in it with a notepad.
Are you in the IMDb?
Tweed. No, but twice people have sent it to me.
Oh, they've seen you?
Yeah, people on Twitter have sent me stills of it. I've never seen it, but I'm in there with writing things down.
Notes. And so you went on this as a corollary to Publicly Shamed.
Yes, so I met Princess Donna at the Chateau Marmont. They phoned my room and said, I don't stay there anymore, but I did stay there then.
Why don't you stay there anymore?
Because the last time I went there for a wedding, and there were all these people standing in the swimming pool smoking cigarettes and flicking the ash in the pool. And I just thought, I don't want to stay in a hotel that allows that. So I don't stay there.
They're
anymore.
watching and they clean up their act.
Yeah,
It's definitely an interesting place. I've stayed there.
it is. But
once.
you're going to be shocked by the story I'm about to tell you about Princess Donna. So I'm in my room and the receptionist says, your guest is waiting for you downstairs. So I went downstairs, and as you can attest, as a Chateau Marmont patron, most people who stay at the Chateau Marmont dress exactly like this, right? In sort of, shapeless hoodies. And
Yeah, hipster LA, or
Yeah.
the more important you are, the richer you are, the more you dress down.
Although
LA look.
Although I personally wear hoodies as a form of, social anxiety. I like to sort of be sort of hidden.
Okay.
Anyway, but Princess Donna, so the room was full of people dressed exactly like this, except for Princess Donna, who was dressed in this kind of bright blue, very tight dress, very high heels, and, looked like a porn star. And I walked towards her. This was my first ever meeting with a porn star. And I walked towards her and I happened to glance over at the receptionist, and the receptionist was looking at her, and the look on his face was one of total contempt. Like, what is this, sort of dirtbag sex worker doing in our pristine lobby? To his credit, I mentioned this later to a really famous porn star called Chanel Preston, and she said, well, maybe Donna should have dressed more appropriately for the situation. But anyway, that look of contempt on his face sort of really stayed with me, and I thought, I bet you'd be okay with Princess Donna if she's on the safety of your laptop, but you're disgusted by her being in your vicinity. Right. And it was hypocritical. So it was the hypocrisy of that moment that stayed with me. Just like I said before about how I'm really interested in our hypocrisies. I don't care whether or not somebody managed to kill a goat just by staring at it. But I care a lot about our hypocrisies and our biases. Right. And the things we do to make ourselves feel better than other people when we're not, very often. And I think in that situation, he wasn't better than her. So that was why I wanted to tell porn stories.
Right. So that was like a moment where you said, I want to talk about this.
Yeah, I think when I finished So You've Been Publicly Shamed, I thought, what do I want to do next? And that just popped into my head. So I started...
How do you choose your projects? Is it like whatever pulls you there?
Yeah.
Because it has to fascinate you, because you end up being obsessed with this for a year or two.
Yeah, if you make a mistake and do a story that you're not interested in, it's awful, and the story always ends up worse.
Have you done that before?
A couple of times I've been sort of coerced into doing stories by editors that I didn't really want to do. The one that just popped into my head was the plane that vanished. Do you remember? I still haven't found it.
That one in Indonesia or something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they wanted me to try and figure out what happened to the plane, which was, in retrospect, a little ambitious.
And it doesn't really have the Ronson edge, does it?
No, it ends up being all about pings, a bit like season 1 of Serial.
Yeah.
And it becomes about physics.
They've never found that plane.
No.
Isn't that disturbing?
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's probably in pieces at the bottom of, the Indian Ocean or an ocean.
Yeah.
I just tried to think of an ocean that's unfamiliar.
Okay.
I found the Pacific and the Atlantic too familiar.
Those are familiar.
Yeah.
And so you got that instant there. You said, I want to do a story about porn.
Yeah, but then I thought, but what?
Right.
So, and I certainly didn't want to do, like, I'm very fond of Louis Theroux, and I think a lot of the work he does is absolutely brilliant. But Louis' porn stuff was very much about, when he was younger, was very much about, how can you have sex on camera? It was a little bit like me and the Men Who Stare at Goats. Like, how can you do that?
Right.
And
has his style changed over time? Or he's...
I think Louis probably evolved in a similar way to me, actually. I think we're quite similar people and our brains work in similar ways. And I think as we've both gotten older, we've both changed in quite a similar way, I'd say.
He does more video, and he's quite a performing character in the video.
Yeah, but I mean in terms of the...
Subjects.
What interests us. And I think Louis also likes it when it's more about us.
Yeah, I can see that.
Yeah. So I started reading porn blogs, and
What does your wife think of all this?
at one point she did say to me, you don't usually do this much research for a story.
Because sex is something we don't talk about much, and in Britain, maybe less so, or maybe more so than America, because America has the Puritan angle. But
Yes.
it's definitely not, say, France, where it seems to have a different vibe to it.
They're constantly having sex in
Yeah,
France.
apparently, right?
Apparently. I guess it's because,
What?
well, they're all
The Eiffel
farmers.
Tower?
They're farmers, so they've got lots of time on their hands.
Okay.
So they all have sex.
But there's a lot wound up in sex, right? It triggers
Yeah.
a lot of people.
But I should say that my 2 porn podcasts aren't about sex, neither of them. I was one of those people who didn't want to do stories about sex.
Okay. Because it makes you uncomfortable. But that's not the story here.
Yeah, it's not I wanted to choose more unexpected stories.
Right.
I think when Louis did porn, it was about sex.
Right.
I remember, there was a guy who wasn't gay who did gay porn. And this is when Louis was much younger. This was like in the early 2000s or something. And Louis was like, how could you have sex with a man if you're not gay? So that was like his angle.
Right.
And I wasn't interested in that kind of stuff. Partly because I'm a humanist, and also I don't consider myself better than porn performers. And if my line of questioning was, how can you have sex on camera? What does that imply? It implies that I think I'm better than them, or that what they're doing is sort of weird, or, I'm very much an I don't know if this is the right word for the context, but an egalitarian. I just consider myself, equal with everyone. And so I wouldn't want to do that. So then I thought, well, what should it be about? So the first season, The Butterfly Effect, my sort of second brainwave was realizing that everybody in porn, or a lot of people in porn, certainly the old legacy porn people, the sort of DVD porn people, all hate the very same thing, which is this guy called Fabian. And Fabian was the man who gave the world Pornhub. And Pornhub is a massive depository of pirated content. Now, around the same time, I'm really good friends with Emmy the Great, the singer, songwriter.
Okay.
And she was complaining about how her profit margins were like going down because of Spotify and Apple Music, and it's impossible to make money. But in porn, and she was saying, no one cares. And in porn, not only does no one care, their profit margins have completely gone down because of Pornhub stealing all of their content.
And it was that one guy who had the big idea that I'm going to centralize all of this stuff and take the price point from whatever it was to zero.
Yeah.
And change the business model completely.
Yeah. So if nobody cares when that happens, with music, no one cares when it happens with porn.
Because nobody's defending them.
No, because nobody wants to think about them.
Right.
Because
even though everyone's using them.
Yeah.
And that's the hypocrisy.
Because it's going to why do you want to think about the complicated lives of the person that you're jacking off to? You're not going to want to do that. That's going to fuck with your head. So no one cares about their lives. I remember saying to Emmy, and so obviously a lot of them have had to go into escorting to pay the rent. I said to Emmy, at least you don't have to have sex with your fans. And she was like, well, not yet.
Yeah, exactly. So this was fascinating to you. And the Pornhub thing happened.
And again, hypocrisy,
Right. And the Pornhub thing happened years ago?
I guess about 10, 11 years ago, something like that.
All right.
It coincides with a massive rise in erectile dysfunction in young men.
Why is that?
I mean, presumably. It's a slightly controversial study. Some people don't agree with it, but others do. I guess, if you spend your life watching Pornhub, you're going to find it's harder to have sex with actual people.
Even as a teenager?
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Erectile dysfunction, some people say has gone up 1,000% in 16 to 24-year-olds or something. This is from memory.
Okay.
But escorting was one of the least surprising consequences of the tech takeover of porn. There was all these other extraordinary consequences because the structure of the show was let's trace the consequences. and let's find some really, unexpected consequences. And my favourite unexpected consequences was customs, bespoke porn, that to make ends meet now, professional porn producers have to make entire porn films for just one person who wants a film that's so weird no one would ever think to make it unless he writes the script.
What do they get paid for these things?
It depends very much on how many performers, how elaborate it is. But less than you'd think. A really simple custom, $800.
Really?
Yeah. And then it goes up to like several thousand, I suppose.
Okay.
So it's really not that much. But then I thought, well, what an amazing insight into people's inner lives. So I started hunting for like the most unexpected and also least overtly, obviously sexual bespoke porn films. So,
What did you find?
Oh God. Well, my favourite was Stamps Man, who would pay porn stars to destroy his valuable stamp collections. He'd send them to the porn stars, and the porn film would be them destroying his stamps.
Wow.
Yeah. And we found him. We found Stamps Man.
You did?
Yeah.
You talked to him?
Yeah.
Anonymously?
Yeah.
How would they destroy his stamps? Like have sex on them? And
No, they would crush them with their heels and then throw them in the fire while yelling, "Burn, burn."
Was there any pornography there?
Actually, Stamps Man, the porn women would do this naked, but there was other bespoke porn films that we found that weren't sexual at all.
Okay.
One was a woman had to sit cross-legged and say into the camera, "You are loved. Things might be bad now, but they won't always be, and suicide is not the answer." So that was another one that we found.
It's kind of deep, John.
Well, I'll tell you what was... there was very little nice about it, but the one thing you could say is it's a moment of connection on the internet. The internet is destroying all of these porn performers' lives. And there was a moment of real connection between the porn producer and the client who wanted that made. Like therapy for both of them.
Both, yeah.
Yeah.
And this is before the on-demand, like live video stuff.
Yeah, I suppose it rose around the same time. The live, like the webcam stuff.
Yeah.
I didn't really go down that road,
Okay.
to be honest, because customs, bespoke porn just seemed so much more unexpected and interesting and surprising. So I didn't bother doing the webcam stuff.
And so the Butterfly Effect explored all of these things that were happening.
Yeah, if Fabian coming up with Pornhub was like the flap of the butterfly's wings, what was the, tornado? What's the phrase about the butterfly effect? A flap of a butterfly's wings can create a...
Like a tornado on the other side of the world.
Yeah.
Yeah, which that doesn't even sound correct to me, but I get the implication.
Yeah, I can't remember. I looked into it. And I also started to think we really should have called it the ripple effect, because ripples... The butterfly effect is about a very specific meteorological phenomenon.
But it shows that something small could magnify to something massive, whereas ripple maybe doesn't imply that.
Yeah, ripples is just consequence.
To continue watching the rest of the episode for free, visit our website londonreal.tv or click the link in the description below.